let's talk about WandaVision. All right. So we haven't really talked about WandaVision at all because last time we did one of these, I don't think it had really come out yet. I think we talked about
Yeah.
how we were excited about it and it looked like it was going to be good. And I
Mhm.
think that was the if we talked about it at all, and it might be on one of the lost videos, that would have been what we would have said about it. But
Yeah.
now the show's had about 5 episodes,
Mhm.
so there is a good amount of stuff for us to talk about as far as WandaVision goes.
Yeah.
So let us discuss. What do you think of WandaVision so far?
Fantastic so far.
Okay.
First 4 episodes were really good and really engaging. And that last episode, man, it blew my mind.
Mhm.
I thought I knew what was coming. I thought for sure, there's no way they're going to leave this guy out. We should probably
Yeah.
talk about spoiler warning too. I'll probably have to put that in the description. If you
Yeah.
haven't seen it, don't watch the video because we're going to talk about it.
Anybody who's interested in watching WandaVision and hasn't, this is probably not a video you want to watch until you've actually watched at least the first 5 episodes of WandaVision, because that's the point that we're at. So, brief history of me and Wanda Maximoff is first encountered the character in early childhood, and she quickly became a favorite, mainly because I liked the visual of the character. I liked the costume, and had a little bit of a crush on her when I was a kid.
Mhm.
Like you get on comic book characters when you're a small child or sometimes still an adult. But
She's one of those comic book characters that I think pretty much everybody has felt that way about.
yeah. So
Certain characters, everybody is kind of just attracted to.
yeah. So that was kind of like part of the appeal of the character is there's a certain va 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 boom
Yeah.
that comes along with her. And I always really liked the Vision, and he's one of those characters that I could kind of relate to because he's just kind of like a weird robot who doesn't know how to interact with people. But
I would have put it nicer than that. I would have said he's kind of the Spock of the Avengers.
yeah. So yeah, and their relationship I always thought was kind of interesting. So I've always been a fan of these characters. I've always really enjoyed them in the comic book. Once you got to the late 80s, I think they kind of hit a snag on the storyline because I don't think it was necessarily a bad story, but it kind of derailed the characters a bit. Was when John Byrne was working on West Coast Avengers, and he decided to kind of hit the reset button on the Vision, and that was where he was like
Yeah.
all white and got to be like really stoic and everything, and he had Wanda go crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the first time she actually went crazy, but
Yeah.
it was.
Well, if you remember the history of the character, when she's first introduced, she's a villain.
Yeah.
So and then she ends up joining the Avengers, and she has an about face, which is kind of what happened in the movie too with the character in the movie. So she kind of had this history of going back and forth between being a guy, being a good guy, and it kind of developed story wise in the comics into this history of mental trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So when they cast Elizabeth Olsen in the movie, I thought that was a good choice because she's a good actress and she's very attractive. And I was a little disappointed that they didn't have the costume, but it looks like we're gonna get the costume in the show finally. Kind of at least.
Well,
but
yeah.
I guess we'll see what they do with it as far as like if they had her in the outfit that she had in the last few Avengers movies, but just had the headdress kind of thing, I think I would have been happy with that. That's my main thing, is she should have that headdress thing. That's what makes her recognizable as the Scarlet Witch.
For me, that's always been a sticking point with the Marvel Cinematic Universe anyway.
Yeah.
And Marvel in general in the past couple decades, unfortunately, is that they kind of are really kind of pushing away from superheroes and costumes, which is not something that I'm a fan of at all. So I really wanted her to have the costume for the.
I think you need the visual of a superhero costume. to really drive home the fact that it's a superhero.
Yeah.
And
then on top of that, this latest this episode, they had a discussion. A couple of the characters who were outside of what's the name of the town? West Valley, Westfield.
I'm gonna bring that up. Yeah. But
Anyway.
you were saying.
Yeah, sorry. But they talk about
where you're going, and it was something I wanted to bring up. But
they talk about how in the movies she's had no other alias. We know her Scarlet Witch.
She doesn't have some kind of nickname. Nope, just Wanda.
Nope, just Wanda. So yeah, so they kind of established that in the show, which is a little. I kind of wish they had not done that, but anyway.
Well, Kevin Feige had said something to the effect of like, and this was kind of surprising to me, but when I thought about it, it made sense. Is that like she's not really the Scarlet Witch yet. We're going to have her become the Scarlet Witch. So when they said that, I was like, yeah, they never have called her anything in the.
Yeah.
Have they? She's always been Wanda. And
I'm pretty sure most of the merchandising calls her Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
Or at least some of it. Enough that I hadn't noticed before.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that, by the way. It's except they've already had their end game, and she hasn't been Scarlet Witch yet. So, but anyway, it was a minor quibble.
There's been like maybe not as much merchandise as some of the other characters. I'm back. So like this is one of the pieces that I have, and this would have come out with Avengers Endgame. That's a Titan collection, whatever they call it. The 12-inch figures that I like. You can see it's got a pretty good likeness, so they didn't do a good job with it. But her packaging definitely said Scarlet Witch on it. And I bought it mainly because I like the character. But again, it's like she just looks like she's wearing normal clothes. And I kind of feel like just putting the headdress thing on her would take the costume from her looking like she's wearing normal clothes. It'd be just that one little thing that would make her look like a superhero. You know what I mean?
She right now she looks like she just got off work at JCPenney.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. But there are some things I like about it. Like I said, she's got a nice likeness to her, and I really like this hand. It's got some good sort of acting to it. Like it's a nice spell casting hand. The other hand's just kind of like, like she could hold a mug or something. I don't know. But yeah, this was one that I got like Five Below or something like that. I want to say I got her like maybe clearance at Walmart. I don't remember exactly where, but it was definitely a cheap figure to buy because it's not a very exciting action figure, Like I said, I bought it because I liked the character, but there's not really a whole lot to this that like a kid's gonna go, I want to play with that. It's not even like a girl's figures don't sell. It's a sort of thing where it's like, well, she's just like a girl in a normal outfit, like
that's the thing, I really wish they would just commit to it and admit these are superheroes and put her in a costume. We've proven already, Hollywood has proven that the movie going audience will accept someone in a spandex costume and a cape back in the 70s.
And like I said, this is the sort of thing where like I kind of feel like if they put the headdress on there, it would be just enough to push it in the direction where she'd look like a superhero.
Exactly.
You can maybe swap the coat out for a cape or something, but I don't know if you would actually have to at that point. But yeah, it was really nice for me seeing her, even if it was just kind of like a Halloween costume looking thing. Seeing her wearing a costume that was accurate to the comic book where she had the headdress and whatnot. So, and I've seen a lot of girls wear Scarlet Witch costumes at the conventions, and they look fantastic. I kind of in my mind as I imagine it, like she would have like the kind of unitard kind of thing, kind of corsety. That would be kind of like a leather pleather sort of thing, and her boots obviously, and her gloves will be the same sort of material, and then kind of like this flowy, silky kind of cape, and then like I guess the tiara, the headdress thing, that could be the same sort of leather material like I'm talking about. But then like I kind of imagine like the body of the outfit, the sort of body stocking, you know,
Yeah.
they always have the pink on the legs, but sometimes over her shoulders, it's bare skin, and sometimes it's pink like the legs are. But I kind of
Mhm.
imagine like the whole thing being like this sort of
Right.
like sheer pink bodysuit. You know, maybe like a even a sheer red bodysuit.
It's it's almost kind of sad how these cosplayers with, you know, very few resources and very little money are kind of outdoing some of the superhero costumes we see in the movies,
Yeah.
because some of them really are pretty fantastic. And then you get, you know, the Scarlet Witch in the movie, and granted, she hasn't become the Scarlet Witch yet officially,
Yeah.
but you know, like I said, she's a cashier at J.C. Penney, so
I hope they give her like a really cool looking costume where she looks really good in it. It shouldn't be too hard to make Elizabeth Olsen look good.
no.
she, making her look good should be like
Good at the show so far, yeah.
easiest job.
Even the
But
80s moms that, you know, come up under the rib cage.
hmm hmm so but yeah, I would like to see her in some sort of costume that would be a little more evocative of the comic book,
Yeah.
and I think she would look good in that type of outfit. You know, it doesn't have to be something that's like overtly sexy looking or whatever either. It just needs to be something that looks cool and superhero-y, and I think people would be really happy with that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
like I said, I
It's
kind of figured
who's wearing the
that's the
costume, what
key.
the costume is anyway.
Hmm? I'm
I
sorry.
said it's more who's wearing the costume than what the
Yeah,
costume is
yeah.
anyway. So
Now the Vision, on the other hand, I always thought his costume was spectacular,
yeah.
and they kind of nailed the look of the comic book. Obviously, took some liberties, but you're gonna take some liberties in terms of translating it to live action. But
Mhm.
it was nice to have like a spandex type superhero outfit
Yeah.
like he had with a cape and everything, and it was unapologetically a superhero outfit, and I liked
Yeah.
that aspect of it. You know, like it's cool to see him even on the show, like even when he's not fully in his costume, when he's just kind of like
Mhm.
red,
Yeah.
but he's got the outfit like a the normal
The
human
red
outfit
the,
over it.
yeah, the gem in his forehead.
hmm
Yeah.
The Vision always had a really cool look in the comic book,
Mhm. Yeah.
and they took what worked about it in the comic book and were able to translate it into a live action context fairly well.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to seeing him in those Halloween costumes. I think that's going to be fun.
You know, that's it's a poor consolation, but one I'm willing to accept. You know,
Mhm.
because they're not giving them this the like you said, Visions is close enough.
Yeah,
It's perfectly, you know. There's no problem. I have no problem with Vision's look in the movie,
yeah,
but you know, they do this thing where they did it to Captain America too. They actually put him in a version of the comic book costume, but they're making fun of it,
yeah,
which, you know, I think is a little. Yeah, there's a way to pull off that look, uh, and again, Vision is the way he ended up looking in the movies anyway was perfectly fine. But there's a way to pull off that look that doesn't make it look like somebody slapped it together in their home out of, you know,
yeah. Like,
leftover
like the
parts. Or,
cosplayers we were talking about who put a lot of
yeah, yeah,
care into trying to make a suit like that look good. I would have liked to see them try to really do the Captain America costume from the comics with like the chainmail and everything like
oh yeah,
that. That would have looked
mm-hmm.
pretty sweet. Like if you
Right,
look at how Alex Ross paints the character, that's
mm-hmm.
something I would have liked to seen Captain America look like that in the movie. But
Yeah,
even as it is, I liked the outfits Chris Evans has had in the movies for the most part. I think like
yeah, it
as far
works.
as movie versions, those look pretty good.
Yeah,
So and like I said, the Vision, I felt like they kind of nailed that. Like they do a lot of really good jobs with kind of spandexy looking superhero outfits. Like I would even count Black Panther as one of those, even though it's supposed to be like vibranium or whatever.
mm-hmm.
Spider Man obviously has always worn like a spandex type outfit and always looked good in the movies.
Yeah,
Uh, you know, there's certain characters where I can see like, yeah, you might want to do something different, like with Thor, how they kind of redesigned his outfit into like something a little more fantasy oriented. But you kind of have to take, I think, all these characters as their own sort of individual character and be like, how close do you want to get this to what it looks like in the comic book, and how realistic do we have to take it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So there are certain
where
you can get away with you know, putting him into a spandex bodysuit, and certain characters where it's like, why would he wear a spandex bodysuit? You know, doesn't make any sense even.
Right.
But whatever, that's just my opinion. Back to WandaVision specifically, though.
Yeah.
How
are you feeling about the plot so far?
Well, the thing is like, you know, those first few episodes, I'm trying to figure out what the plot is. Yeah. You know, and I think we've pretty much got it figured out by this point. I think, like, if we don't have it entirely figured out, we've probably got it about 90% figured out.
Yeah.
And
there's definitely a very bold direction to start the series off in.
Yeah. So I kind of think that, like, it might have been better for them, and they didn't really have any control over this, I guess, because COVID. It might have been better for them if they'd have been able to start their Disney Plus series with something a little more traditional and familiar feeling with the MCU, like a Falcon and Winter Soldier kind of thing. I think that was what they originally planned on starting out with, but WandaVision was just what they had ready, so it's like, let's roll with it. And I think at first that kind of confused a lot of people because it was not very traditional as far as, like,
the way the show is structured.
Yeah.
You know, the way the show is structured, the way the plot is set up, I think it kind of just lent itself to being available quicker, easier, because they're basically it's a sitcom.
Yeah,
so those are easy to do, much easier than a sci-fi or a special effects heavy sci-fi show. So it makes sense they were able to get that one done quicker. But yeah, you know, starting with something that would be a little more exciting probably would have been the safer bet, but it seems to be working out for them. So everybody seems to be enjoying WandaVision so far. I've been getting texts from members of my family that I had never been into comic books before, and they're asking me questions about what's going on, and they're getting all into it. So it's definitely done its job and pulled the audience in.
Well, I know that you, much like myself, are an admirer of the character of Monica Rambeau, who would have been the second Marvel Captain Marvel and the first female Marvel Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
And should have been, like, you know, should still be Captain Marvel today, I'm of the opinion. She
should have been the Captain Marvel. I've said it online, like, she's the only one I think we need to be concerned with.
Yeah.
Anybody who's fans of these characters from just the movie has no clue the history of Captain Marvel in Marvel Comics. There was an alien hero, a male, who came to Earth, and his name was Marvel, and they ended up calling him Captain Marvel. And I'm filling in our audience here. You know all this stuff already. Yeah. And he ends up with cancer and dying. And the next person to take on that mantle was Monica Rambeau, who became the first female Captain Marvel. And for whatever reason in the cinematic universe, they decided to just completely, pass her over in favor of Carol Danvers, who we've talked about Carol before.
Like I said, I feel very strongly in that, like, if they were going to do a female Captain Marvel, they already had Monica right there. They should have just brought her back into that role. I don't know why they didn't.
She's I've always been a big DC fan, but I enjoy Marvel Comics too. Their characters also, mean an awful lot to me, and she's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
she's. It's for me. It's Captain America, Captain America, Power Man and Iron Fist, and then Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau. Those are probably my four favorites.
She was a pretty big deal when I started reading comics, and like she was a character that was fairly well regarded and a big part of the Avengers through most of what was my favorite run, which was that Roger Stern run. So
she was the leader.
Yeah, it's weird to me, like how once he left the book, she just kind of like got completely shuffled to the side, and it's like they tried to forget her. Like I
Yeah.
always thought that was kind of a strange decision.
They've
But
changed her name. They've taken her out of costume in the comics. They tried shoving her in different teams. I don't know if she's ever been back in the Avengers since you know, the last time she was a member. I don't think she's rejoined, has she?
She was in Next Wave for a while, which was a good series.
It was a good book, yeah, but not the Avengers.
Handled her in that. She was just basically didn't take any crap from anybody. She was kind of like a little more cynical, which is understandable considering everything that she's been through in the subsequent years. But I'm really enjoying her on WandaVision. I think the actress they got to play her is fantastic.
Perfectly
cast, beautiful woman. Like and she nailed the character. Like like I feel like that's the character that I read in the comic book. I'm really happy with.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like
clearly something going on with her possibly developing powers. They've hinted at that. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
They're probably going to call her Photon, which is one of the names they gave her after they stripped her of the Captain Marvel title in the comics.
Yeah. But, you know, but maybe she'll be Captain Marvel again. I kind of hope that'll happen.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'd seen people in one of the Facebook groups that I'm in, you know, even saying that like that's what they should do because, you know, really I don't think that like you can debate me on this. You won't debate me on this. I mean, like a general you, Rudy specifically, not. I don't think people took to the Carol Danvers character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe the way that they hoped people would take to her. I know there are some people that, you know, are fans of that version of the character, but I think that most people are at best indifferent towards her, and I wouldn't even say a majority of people, but a good enough sized chunk of people actively dislike her.
Yeah.
That's just what I've observed. That's completely anecdotal, but
I don't know if like even the people who are fans of that version of the character, I kind of wonder how many of them even know the history of the character from the comics and know how briefly she has been Captain Marvel in the comics, because she had this is actually still pretty recent as far as, you know, comics history goes. She had never been Captain Marvel before. She was Miss Marvel, which is a perfectly acceptable title for me. And it's only just in the past, it's been less than a decade, I think, where they decided that she's taking on this new mantle, Captain Marvel, instead of giving it back to Monica Rambeau.
Yeah.
And they've made this huge push to make her a character of importance in the Marvel universe when she never really had been before. Not that she wasn't a great character before, because I was actually a fan of the original version, but the character that she is now, as seen in the movies, is not the same person. They've completely rewritten her character. And I wonder how many of the people in the audience who are not comic book readers know this about her.
I do think the decision to kind of publicly hang the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe on the Carol Danvers character, I feel like that was a bit of a mistake, and that what they should have done is seen how the audience reacted to this character before they decided, yep, that's it. She's going to be the cornerstone of the MCU from now on.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a much wiser idea to just introduce the character, see how the fans react to her, and then if they had reacted to her warmly, then try to expand her role. I don't think people generally like characters that they're told that they have to like. I don't think that's a good way. I've never heard of an audience being successfully browbeaten into accepting a character, and it seems to be like the more you try to browbeat them into accepting a character, like the more you tighten your grip, the more fans will slip through your fingers. It's like you can try to force us to like whatever character you want us to like, but all it does is make us dig in our heels and be like, no, this character sucks. Get rid of them.
Right.
It's like
beyond the movies, it's something that they've been doing in the comics for a while too.
Yeah,
They
they'll try to push certain characters that they want to be popular.
Yeah, So
the writers and the artists and the things like that don't get to decide what's popular. Only the readership or the viewership can decide what's popular. It's like think about Star Trek: Next Generation.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the early seasons, you had Wesley Crusher, and it was pretty obvious they were trying to push Wesley Crusher as being a character for the fans to like, and that just made the fans dislike the character.
Yeah, nobody likes Wesley.
Yeah.
Especially not Captain Picard.
Yeah. So we love Captain Picard. Anytime you got irritated with Wesley, we're like, yeah, he's kind of irritating, isn't he?
Captain Picard will try to tell us that he loves Wesley, but he doesn't. We know.
Yeah. I mean, he might tolerate him, but
So back to the comics real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Carol Danvers had been Miss Marvel for decades, and she had gone into disuse. She hadn't really shown up anywhere for a long time. But so what happened was, you and I know this. I probably should cover this. And I kind of hope to do it in the movie too. She ended up appearing in X-Men, and she had a fight with Rogue, who, her power is that she steals other people's powers. And if she steals too much of their powers, they die, which is what happened to Carol. So Carol was gone. She was actually became a second personality in Rogue's mind.
Yeah.
And Rogue had all of her powers that she used to have, plus Rogue's own powers.
Yeah.
And Carol Danvers was just gone for a long time. And then she she came back. How did she come back?
Completely wiped.
Yeah.
And wound up becoming binary.
That's right.
The Starjammers.
Yeah. So and then she comes back. She takes back her Miss Marvel title, right? Yeah. And then she tries to use that for a while, and there was no traction with the character in the comics. People really didn't care about her. Her biggest story was that she got killed by Rogue, and Rogue took her powers. And then she becomes Warbird. And Warbird was actually really cool. I was liking Warbird. I was liking the fact that they were trying to take this character who had been disused and a lot of the fans didn't really think much of, and they were trying to build her up into something that was really cool and interesting.
Yeah.
We'd had a discussion about that too before. I don't know if we recorded that. But anyway, just a few years ago, it was probably less than 10 years, they change her costume. They decide she's Captain Marvel, and they start pushing her like she's some, big to-do in the Marvel universe. And I don't think fans are buying it.
Well, basically, they wanted to try to have their own Wonder Woman, I think it was. Yeah, right. And on paper, I can look at how they would look at Carol Danvers and be like, this is a good character to build up into our own Wonder Woman. But I don't know if they took the right tact as far as that goes. Right. Here's something that, you kind of made me think of this is and this is why I don't have, any kind of, most comic book characters I like are ones that I liked when I was a kid, and I have a lot of nostalgic affection for. I mean, there's some newer characters, like Spider-Gwen is somebody I would say is a newer character. I'm not counting the old Gwen Stacy. I'm talking about this specific version. She's a newer character that I really like. I don't have any kind of nostalgic affection for this character. I like her because she's a good character. But I'd say most comic book characters that I like are ones that I liked when I was a kid, and I've got some nostalgia for. Like Batman, Nightwing, Captain America. These are characters I grew up with. When I first started reading Marvel Comics, it was pretty close, like just after Rogue would have joined the X-Men. So Carol Danvers was already pretty much out of regular appearances in comic books. Yeah. And when they first, I think, really started to try to bring her back with that Warbird storyline, that would have been, around the time that I graduated from high school, I think.
Yeah, that was mid to late 90s.
So yeah, she was not around at all
Yeah.
for any of my childhood.
Mhm.
So I don't have any kind of nostalgic connection to Carol
Yeah.
Danvers at all.
Kind of what I was getting at is that
Yeah,
she's basically a brand new character.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, like the Captain Marvel version of her is definitely a brand new character. I mean,
Yeah.
like technically it's supposed to be the same character, but not really that recognizable as such.
Hmm.
I think if in terms of creating like Marvel's Wonder Woman, uh, they just kind of wanted to do like a female Superman. I
Hmm.
think it's a misinterpretation of what the character of Wonder Woman is.
Right.
And a lot of what makes Wonder Woman work as a character are things like her compassion
Hmm.
and her willingness to try to find peaceful solutions to problems. You know,
Yeah.
she'll kick your ass if she has to, but
Hmm.
she's gonna try not to kick your ass first. She's gonna try to talk you out of
Yeah.
whatever
Right.
it is. That's how she works. She'll chop a dude's head off if she has to.
Hmm.
She got no problem. She'll break your neck, straight up break your neck. She don't care.
Right.
But she really does care though. Is the thing. It's like she'll do it if she has to. She don't want to do it. And Carol Danvers, as she is in the comics, to me strikes me as being kind of a not a very compassionate person.
Not at all.
So
I,
we
I
got
but
we got way off.
every time we talk about her, I bring up that scene in Endgame
Yeah,
where she's standing in the room with Captain America and Iron Man and Thor, and they're like, "Where were you while this was going down?" And her response is, "Well, Earth is not the only planet in the universe." She was basically saying that she was too busy doing something. What's that?
I've got something to say about this, but keep
Oh
talking.
yeah. So she's
I'm
too
coming back
busy
to it. That's what I'm saying.
doing something else to come and prevent half of everybody in the universe from being killed. And the attitude with which she said it was almost a slap in the face to anybody who's a fan of these comics. And the
Yeah,
characters, oh,
yeah. So going back to WandaVision, because I want to try to circle back to that.
yeah,
Uh, we see the scene where Monica winds up being like snapped back, where like the Hulk snaps, and
yeah,
the people start. So we see her. This is a scene that I really loved in WandaVision, is where we finally get to see like for real
hmm,
people being snapped back and the kind of chaos that causes.
yeah,
And so she comes back and she finds out she's been gone for 5 years. And while she's been gone for 5 years, her mother has who when she left, her mother had recovered from cancer, and now she
yeah,
finds out that after she disappeared for 5 years, her mother actually wound up dying of cancer.
right.
Now, a lot of times our health can be connected to our emotional state,
Hmm.
and I'm sure Monica knows this as well. So she's got to be thinking that if she didn't get snapped out of existence, maybe her mother might still be alive today. Now, you
Yeah,
talk about Monica Rambeau finding out, like, if it's a sort of thing where like she finds out that, oh well, you know, Carol Danvers was just off Lottie Da on some other
yeah.
planet.
She's
When
busy haircut.
she could have been here stopping. Yeah, she get another haircut. She could have been
Yeah.
here stopping Thanos. She could
Hmm.
have maybe, kept me from being snapped away from 5 years. Maybe my mom might still be alive.
Yeah.
And I might be reading too much into this, but that was the kind of thing that I started to think about when Jimmy Woo mentions Captain
Yeah.
Marvel.
I
And
love I love that shot.
Monica did not seem very happy at all when the
Yeah.
subject of Captain Marvel was brought up.
Hmm.
And
He's standing in the background over her shoulder and she's like this, and he mentions Captain Marvel and she's like
it's like we've all seen that look, that
yeah.
not not the expression you want somebody to have when they're thinking about you. Let's
Yeah.
say that. So, so she clearly isn't too happy with Carol. She was none too pleased to have that
Right.
person brought up again. And yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with that. I'm going to be interested in seeing what they do with that. So
yeah.
I think that was something that got people thinking about maybe she might wind up replacing Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel. So
we're praying.
you can't call me sexist for wanting to replace a white woman with a black woman. If anything, you're the racist for not wanting it to
happen. Right?
Much better on the foot now.
Yeah. So let's get to the meat of this thing. We already mentioned Rogue, who's an X-Man and hasn't appeared in the Marvel Universe.
Mm-hmm.
So, we get to this thing where they've been dropping hints all along that, obviously things are not what they seem on WandaVision, and this whole TV show thing is kind of a put on. Then they revealed that, Wanda has kind of snapped, and he's built this fantasy around her, and she's taking all these people who have come back from being snapped by Thanos and cast them in her show. And she's basically altering reality. We probably should have talked about Tommy and Billy also. A lot of this stuff comes from the Vision and Scarlet Witch miniseries from back in the 80s, which was a really good miniseries. But anyway, I'm not sure how.
As a side note, I like how Marvel will bring in a lot of this stuff from the old and kind of remix it and give us the familiar and unfamiliar ways. But anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, this is probably not spoilers because I honestly don't know at this point if Tommy and Billy's nature is going to be the same on this show as it is in the comics. Something tells me it's not. But she basically created these kids.
Yeah.
And we kind of know that in the show too, because there's the whole scene where Monica's explaining, they're talking about have we identified the kids yet? And Monica says, no, the kids are hers. So we know for a fact that she conceived those kids. Like I said online, she may not have conceived them in a traditional manner, but they are her kids. So I don't know how that's going to play out in the show. But then what happens is she decides to bring somebody else in her show to cast in her show. And I wasn't sure. Like I said, I have a lot of family members who've never read comics, and I wasn't sure that they were going to understand what that scene was all about, what was going on. But I can tell you what I expected. She gets a knock on the door. And, they're wondering, who is that? Her and Vision are arguing about, whether or not this thing that they're doing is real and right. Somebody knocks on the door and interrupts the fight. She opens the door and we see a man with silver hair, just like her brother. Now, people had been kind of dropping hints online all day. I'm on Facebook. Before I got to watch the show, people are dropping that the quote, didn't see that coming. So I was like, okay, they're spoiling it for me. It's Quicksilver. It's her brother. It's Pietro. And it was, but then the camera turns around to her view and it's a version of her brother from another universe. One that was, a completely separate movie series that had never had any connection to any of this stuff. So what's your take on that? What do you think about that?
Okay, this is something where I'm kind of like, I'm kind of wondering what we're seeing here, because it's one of two things. And one, which I think might be the more likely thing just because it'd be the simpler explanation, is that this is Quicksilver that we've seen in the X-Men movies. So the X-Men movies will be a parallel universe to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So this is the same character, but just in a different universe. The other idea is that maybe there is, maybe she conjured up another Pietro, but it wasn't the same Pietro. And that, kind of like how I'm pretty sure that the J.K. Simmons in the, the J. Jonah Jameson that J.K. Simmons plays in the different Spider-Man movies is not the same exact character, even though it's the same exact actor. But we've already seen the actor play Quicksilver in this universe, and I'm so confused. What I thought was kind of funny though is as far as
here's the thing is that that's the cliffhanger. We really don't know yet.
Yeah,
there are a lot of different ways this could play out, and we have no clue. So it'll be interesting, what happens in the next episode. But go ahead.
It's kind of funny because I think the one thing that not everybody would feel this way, but I think a lot of people do. The one thing that I would say that it seems like people tended to like about the Fox Marvel movies versus the Marvel movies is the X-Men version of Quicksilver seems a lot more popular to me than the MCU version of Quicksilver.
Yeah.
People tended to take to that one a lot more, I think, at least in what I've observed.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of ironic because the MCU version actually is a much more accurate to the comic book version of the character.
Right.
But also I think part of it is because, like, yeah, the guy in the comic books is a dick.
Yeah.
Whereas the Quicksilver in the X-Men movies
may not realize that.
Yeah, a pretty nice guy. He seems
Yeah.
pretty likable. You could get along with that Quicksilver, but the Quicksilver in the comic book is kind of an asshole. And the MCU version was accurate to that. He was kind of a jerk.
To the MCU version's credit, we didn't a lot of him. We got to see him introduced as the bad guy, just like in the comics the first time around. So he's a villain, and he has his turnaround during the main battle at the end, and technically never became an Avenger. Now he's officially, I suppose, in the MCU, he's officially has been an Avenger. But he dies right away, so we really didn't to know that character. Like we did the Fox version. Played by, I'm trying to remember, Aaron Taylor Johnson is the guy who plays Quicksilver in the MCU, and then
Evan Peters, is that his
Evan?
name?
Yeah, Evan Peters.
Yeah,
right?
And they're both good actors. I like that also. And they're both in Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
They're both good.
I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. I was really looking forward to seeing the MCU version of Quicksilver return because I love Quicksilver. I know what that character's deal is in the comics, and I'm okay with it. That's one of the things I like about him is that he's a jerk. And I kind of always wish
I'm a big fan of the Submariner and Guy Gardner. There's a lot of jerky characters. U.S. Agent. Yeah, there's a lot of jerky characters that I love.
So I was looking forward to them bringing back, and I expected at some point they would bring him back in this series, at least as a cameo. And I was completely blown away when it turned out to be the other guy, who I also love. So,
So, but yeah, this is kind of like the first time we've seen any inkling that there's any kind of connection between the Fox Marvel movies and the Marvel movies, and I'm kind of wondering how far they're going to take that. Like, obviously the X-Men movies have always been fairly popular, and people have always, had like there's some criticism of them to be sure, but for the most part, it seems like, general audiences and comic book fans were pretty okay with them at the very least. Like some of them were bad, some of them were good, some of them were great, but it's like. So it seems kind of obvious to me, like, maybe they'd want to try to, respect that, or, at least take advantage of the popularity, however you want to phrase that. But what do they do with, say, the Fantastic Four? I mean, like, the Fantastic Four movies aren't really held in that higher regard as the X-Men movies are. And
I've got some theories about WandaVision. That I think may relate to the Fantastic Four. But just to stick with Quicksilver for the moment, it's the possibilities that this scene represents to me that have got me really excited. And one of the things that's gotten me most excited about it is that this version of Quicksilver that showed up is the son of Magneto, which, for a long time in the comics, and again, people who are only fans of the characters from the movies won't know this. For a long time in the comics, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were the children of Magneto. And then it was an interesting thing that happened when they were first introduced. That wasn't part of what they were. And then it was decided to make them, these characters, they're mutants and they're the son and daughter of Magneto. And then when Disney had trouble getting control of these characters again and realized they couldn't use them for the MCU, they actually Marvel actually took that aspect away from the characters in the comics. So Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were no longer the children of Magneto.
Yeah,
but
foolishness.
What's that?
I thought that was foolishness.
Oh yeah, for sure. But the cool thing is that this character that showed up on the doorstep, this Quicksilver, he is the son of Magneto. So I could see them using this, to bring these characters back in a way where, that part of their history is restored.
They really need to, especially since there's no reason not to do it anymore, they really need to restore that aspect of the character's history. I kind of feel like that's a fairly important thing to omit. Is the familiar relationship between Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch and Magneto.
Right.
And,
now, obviously, Disney's bought Fox, so they own all these characters again anyway. Yeah. So it's something
there's no reason not to do it anymore.
No reason not to, yeah.
So
we should talk about House of M, because that's something else that occurred to me in all this. So, if you don't read comics, you're not going to realize that at one point, Scarlet Witch, I forget exactly what it was that led to that event, what trauma it was that she went through that led to her doing what she did. But in the comics, she basically uses her powers to wipe out almost all the mutants in the Marvel universe. So the X-Men were gone.
Yeah.
And here we have her in the show basically using her powers to bring characters that we know to be mutants into this universe. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a reverse House of M thing.
Yeah, that was something a lot of people were speculating on, is that might be a way to bring the whole X-Men into the MCU.
There's been a lot of talk online about how they're going to find, now that Disney has control of all the X-Men again, about how they're going to integrate the X-Men characters into this, MCU that they've already created, and there's a perfect way to do it.
Yeah.
So, and it's actually, kind of ties in with stuff that's happened in the comics.
And if they did that, would they wind up bringing in like the Fox versions of those characters, or would they wind up making up their own X-Men? I think everybody assumed that they would do the same thing with Spider-Man, where they would just make up their own version of the X-Men. Mm-hmm. But if they've already acknowledged the existence of the Fox X-Men, at least in part of the multiverse.
Yeah. Well, here's my take on it.
Out from there.
Here's my take on it. And we've got another week before we see where this is going, but my take on it is that this guy, this version of Pietro who's shown up on her doorstep is the Fox version.
Yeah.
And what happened was, it turns out she can't bring people back from the dead. She wanted to bring her brother back from the dead, but she either doesn't know how, or she couldn't allow herself to do it. So what she did was, she grabbed another version of Pietro from a different universe and brought him. So you with me so far?
Yeah.
So now I think what happens is they've set up a precedent where there are two different versions of these characters that exist: the MCU version and the Fox version. And now the Fox has come in. But I think what can happen now is that they have a really good explanation for why they could cherry pick which versions of those characters they want to bring in. Mm-hmm. So if they end up, say, not being able to get back a certain actor to play, such and such X-Men character, they'll recast that character. But if they say Hugh Jackman wants to come back and play Wolverine, they can bring Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine. It can be pretty much any version. That's my take.
Yeah, that seems reasonable to me. Like, I don't know if it's something he would still feel this way about, but I do remember a while back reading Hugh Jackman saying he really wanted Wolverine to fight the Hulk.
Yeah.
So if they could talk him into coming back, it might be with something like that. It's like, look, hey, we can have you fight the Hulk now if you really want to.
That's another thing. A lot of people who don't, who aren't really inclined toward this stuff may not realize is that Marvel and Disney actually can't make a Hulk movie. Mm-hmm. So back in the 90s, I don't know. You want to tell the story?
Well, it's kind of complex. And basically what happened, as I understand it, and could be wrong about some of these, but this is as I understand it, is that Universal had bought the rights to make a movie of the Incredible Hulk, like in the 1990s, and so they'd been developing this movie for a long time. and they put out the 2000, was it 2002, 2003, that Hulk movie with Eric Bana.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was not that
How?
well received. It did okay at the box office, but
Yeah.
not as phenomenally as they
Right.
were hoping it would be. So they were kind of tepid on making a sequel. They made a sequel that was kind of a sequel, kind of a reboot, kind of a like neither
The
fish nor
spirit.
fowl kind of thing. The Edward Norton Hulk,
Yeah.
the Incredible Hulk. That one I liked. That was a pretty fun movie, and that was one of the first MCU movies.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Downey Jr. has a cameo in it, playing
Right.
Tony Stark.
Not by Marvel,
Yeah,
produced by Universal, but they
yeah.
Tony Stark to come cameo in it.
So
We
basically, like Universal, like I think has the rights to the Hulk in perpetuity, basically as long as they want them. It doesn't.
so
It's not the sort of deal where they have to make a movie every few years to renew the license.
yeah, right.
They just have it forever, no matter
So
what.
Marvel filed for bankruptcy back in the 90s.
Yeah, yeah,
They were really hard up for cash, and they were in danger of actually getting shut down. So they sold the rights to the Hulk in perpetuity
yeah.
to Universal. And I don't think it's not the full film rights, because they can still use him. I think it's the distribution rights. So what happens is if Marvel and Disney were to go and make a Hulk movie,
Mm-hmm.
a movie with just the Hulk, about the Hulk, if they were to do that, they have to share a significant portion of the profits with Universal, who owns the
Here's
distribution
the
rights.
really crazy part about this, though, is again, as I understand it, this is how it works: is that Universal has to basically be the ones to be like, yeah, let's make this movie. If they don't want to make it, they don't make it, and that's
Yeah,
why we haven't seen a Hulk movie, is because Universal doesn't want to make one.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's kind of crazy to me that you could have like a deal where Marvel could just straight up make a Hulk movie, like pay
Mhm.
for it themselves and everything, and just be like, here you go, you can distribute this as part of like our huge multimedia franchise, and Universal's just like, nah.
Nah. Now we're
I
good.
feel like that's free money. Like
Right.
at this point, a Hulk movie would probably be a huge smash hit, bigger than either of the other ones. Yeah,
So, but the thing that I was getting at with all this was that, obviously Thor Ragnarok
yeah,
featured the Hulk pretty extensively. He was
mhm,
basically a second lead, and
yeah,
a lot of that had to do with the fact that they wanted to make a Hulk movie, basically World War Hulk, which was an adaptation of the comic story,
yeah,
without actually getting Universal involved. And this was their workaround, was that
yeah,
it was a Thor movie and not a Hulk movie. He was a supporting character, which
yeah.
apparently counts in this case. So if they wanted to bring back Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, they make a Wolverine movie where he
Mhm.
fights Hulk. So they're getting the 2-for-1 deal there. They get to use the Hulk, and they get to bring back Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Is obviously very popular, and I think that movie would make billions.
Think about this also. Going with the Fantastic Four thing. Uh, another character that fights the Hulk fairly often in the comic books is Ben Grimm, the Thing.
Mhm.
So they could do a movie where the Thing fights the Hulk, like a
Yeah.
Fantastic Four movie where the Thing
Hmm.
fights the Hulk. They could also do a movie that would be something like one of the first crossovers that Marvel actually did, like an intertitle crossover, where like in the Fantastic Four, they actually had like the Avengers team
Hmm.
up with the Fantastic Four to fight the Hulk.
Right.
Like that was one of the first, not the first time the Hulk fought the Thing. I think it was the second time the Hulk fought the Thing, but
Hmm.
it wound up being such a big battle that the entire Fantastic Four and the Avengers were dragged into it to try to subdue the Hulk. And that could
Hmm.
be a movie that they could do,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
it's just like, what if the Hulk goes bad, and the or like was it Incredible Hulk number 300, where like the Hulk, Nightmare was messing around with his mind,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and you wound up with like Bruce Banner's nightmarish version of the Hulk, where he
Hmm.
was completely mindless with nothing to control him, just unbridled rage. and you basically had every single superhero fighting the Hulk, and at the end of it, like, Doctor Strange has to banish him to the crossroads between dimensions.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things you could do with the Hulk that isn't necessarily a Hulk movie.
Oh yeah.
Like you could put that as being an Avengers movie, and the Hulk is the villain of it technically.
Right. Yeah.
He's not really the protagonist at that point, even in his own comic book in that storyline. He wasn't really the protagonist of it because of that. So it's like,
yeah,
there's so many workarounds that they could do with the Hulk.
To tie this all together, we already know that Kang is going to show up in the next phase of the MCU.
Yeah,
Kang the Conqueror, time traveler. People who haven't read the comics won't realize that he has a connection to the Fantastic Four. He's actually, what is his name?
Ramatut.
Well, no, I mean his real name. His last name is Richards. I was going to say Franklin, but it's not Franklin. Anyway, what's that? Nathaniel. Thank you, Nathaniel Richards. So he's a descendant of Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Leader of the Fantastic Four. We know he's going to be one of the he's supposed to be the major villain of the next phase of the Marvel universe.
Okay.
And he's a character who, travels through time and travels through dimensions. We have the upcoming sequel to Doctor Strange, which is going to involve multiple dimensions. We have Spider-Man 3, the third Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, which is pretty much, confirmed that it's going to involve different versions of Spider-Man from different dimensions. So I'm thinking already that Kang is going to have something to do with all of this. This all kind of ties together. And then we have this version of Quicksilver from another universe who shows up in WandaVision. And I'm thinking maybe that ties in also. And a lot of people online have been talking about how they think that there's somebody else, another big bad behind the scenes that's guiding Wanda through what she's going through in WandaVision. And I'm wondering if it can't be Kang, and this is all tied together. And now we have the connection to the Fantastic Four also. So that could be a good way to bring in the Fantastic Four to the MCU.
And there's one other connection to the Fantastic Four that we haven't touched on. I don't know if this has been confirmed yet, but it was definitely, I think, one of the more popular fan theories of the show.
This is the Chris Evans news?
I'm sorry?
This is the Chris Evans news?
No. It's the the character of Agnes. A lot of people have speculated that Agnes is actually Agatha Harkness.
Yeah, right.
So Agnes.
Yeah.
Agatha Harkness. You see that's clever what they did there. But yeah, I think that would be really cool. And of course, she was originally a Fantastic Four character. So it's kind of funny to think that if it does turn out that that's the case, that the character that they would have let off in bringing the Fantastic Four characters into the MCU would have been Agatha Harkness.
Yeah,
not Doctor Doom, not Reed Richards, like Franklin Richards' nanny.
Yeah.
But she's a really cool character, so I kind of hope that that's the case. And also in the comic book, she always had like a pretty strong connection to the Vision and Scarlet Witch, so it makes sense. That if that is supposed to be Agatha Harkness, it would make sense that they brought her.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of possibilities there.
So there's just like so much. I mean, like we started off talking about WandaVision, and we've pretty much covered the entire scope of the MCU. and I think that's like a testament to how strong the fibers are that tie all this stuff together. It's like, I don't think there's a single thing we haven't touched on at all in discussing any of this. Like I think we haven't talked too much about Iron Man, but
so I mentioned hang on, give me a second, I'll get there. I had mentioned the Chris Evans news. I saw an article earlier today that claims that which one is it? I think it's Doctor Strange 2. The rumor is that Chris Evans is going to cameo in that as the Human Torch instead of Captain America. So, I kind of, part of me hopes that's not true, but, it does play into all of this. So
I tell you what, if Chris Evans wants to come back as Captain America, I would be 100% for that.
Oh, for sure. As far as I'm concerned, he is Captain America. So.
Yeah. And I can't get enough Captain America. He's like my favorite Marvel character. So
Hmm.
The more Captain America, the better, I say. I know he says he's done with it, but he's just so good in the part, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like I get how some of these characters you wouldn't want to recast them. I
Hmm.
get how it would be daunting to recast a Robert Downey Jr. or a Chris Evans or uh,
And
a Chadwick Boseman, but
to bring up
they're probably going to
to
wind up rebooting all of this anyway. Maybe in 20
to
years.
tie Iron Man into this, now that we have multiple universes, if
Mhm.
say Robert Downey Jr. decides he gets a little bored, they have a good way to bring him back already, just built right into the concept.
Yeah,
He's Tony Stark from another universe.
I think it would be cool to see, like, even though like they're a year too late now, maybe bring in the Iron Man of 2020, have Arno
Yeah.
Stark in there.
Hmm.
I guess he could be Tony's cousin or something, and
Yeah.
you know, comes in, takes over the company. He becomes the new Iron Man, and he's a
Yeah.
jerk. So, but yeah, WandaVision, I'm pretty happy with. A
Hmm.
lot of exciting possibilities that are opening up. I can't wait to see what else we've got coming from Disney Plus as far as their series. Like
Hmm.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier was, probably the one I was looking forward to the most. But I'm 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 gonna be excited to watch whatever they have to throw at us. Honestly,
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
I got no complaints so far.
so,
It's actually got me excited again about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which I had kind of lost that excitement once we lost Captain America and Iron Man. I didn't really see the point, but I kind of see the point now.
yeah. So, and who knows? We might get them back in one way or another. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be fine with Sam being Captain America. I'm
Oh
looking
yeah.
forward to seeing Sam as Captain America.
Hmm.
Like the thing that's got me excited about seeing Sam as Captain America is the fact that nobody can replace Steve Rogers as Captain America, and
Right.
Sam would be the first guy to tell you that.
Hmm.
But he's gonna try his damnedest to
Yeah.
do the absolute best job he can filling
Right.
those shoes, and that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. It's
Yeah.
like he knows he's got an impossible task. It ain't gonna stop him. And honestly, ain't that the spirit of Captain America to
Yep.
begin with? That's like the most
And
Captain America attitude you can have.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's done it in the comics, and I was pretty excited to see it there. So,
Yeah,
I mean, if they're ever going to replace, I have my issues with Bucky becoming Captain America.
yeah,
That's probably a subject for another video, but I
yeah.
didn't have those same kind of issues with Falcon.
It's funny when they did that storyline with Bucky taking over as Captain America in the comic book. Like the thing that I actually said at the time was like, I think it'd be more interesting to see Sam do it.
Yeah.
I think I would be
Mhm.
more interested in seeing Falcon take over the role of Captain America because he would probably have like a completely different style. I kind of figured Bucky as Captain America, okay, he's got a gun, but he's pretty much going to try to do it. He's probably just going to try to be like Steve Rogers Part 2. That's what
Mhm.
I could see Bucky trying to do, is trying to be the most like Steve he could possibly be.
Yeah.
Whereas I could see Sam being like, there's no way in hell I can ever be Steve. But that
Yeah.
doesn't mean I can't be Captain America.
Yeah. There you
So,
go.
like, and then like becoming Captain America in his own way. Like he still had the wings of the
Mhm.
Falcon and everything like
Yeah.
that. But he's still,
Super visual.
yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think Anthony Mackie is gonna bring it as well. I'm pretty psyched to see it. I'm somebody who is of the opinion that Steve Rogers is the only real Captain America. We all know this,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean I don't enjoy seeing other people fill the role. And I think Sam was probably, if not the most worthy successor, he was certainly the one that I was the most interested in seeing what he was
Mhm.
going to do with it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. No, I was going to say the most interesting.
Yeah. So,
I'm a big fan of Falcon, also the
mhm.
character, and Anthony Mackie, the actor. And I honestly don't think he's really got his fair chance to shine in these movies. And I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that series because I think he's finally going to get it. So
I do think, as far as like, it seems like every superhero in these movies has their own sort of like sidekick character, like, War Machine and Falcon
mhm.
and things like that. I do feel like he was one that was treated with like a little more respect.
Yeah,
And I kind of wonder if that's because maybe they were already planning on grooming him for that role and making like War Machine gets kind of treated like a joke sometimes in these
Hmm.
movies, and I
Yeah.
kind of feel like that's unfair. But they never treated Falcon like a joke. Falcon was
Yeah.
always treated with like the respect
Unlike,
that character deserved.
yeah, yeah. Unlike the recent Star Wars sequel trilogy, it does seem like they had a definite roadmap they were trying to follow here. So
Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me they had planned this from, for if, at least from quite a while back.
yeah. I tell you, man, it's like that scene in Endgame where Steve gives him the shield. It just felt so right, man.
Yeah.
It was
Hmm.
it was just one of those things where it's just and Bucky giving like his nod of approval, like like that was the sort of that was probably the last conversation they had before Steve left
Yeah.
in the first place. It's like I'm gonna give the shield to Sam, and Bucky's like absolutely you should give the shield to Sam.
Hmm.
Like I could see that being the
Yeah.
conversation that they had. Like who do you think I? He could even ask Bucky like who do you think I should give the shield to? Like you got to give it to Sam.
Yeah.
Nobody else. Nobody else can even come close.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
who are you gonna give it to? Me? I'm a train wreck, man.
We had kind of talked about Endgame before. Obviously, that came out before we started doing any of these
Yeah,
videos. But I had you know that I had some problems with that movie, and one
yeah.
of them was the idea that Captain America would go back in time and not be involved in a lot of the history that was going on during the time he should have been frozen.
Hmm.
Um, I know you don't feel the same way, but
How do you know it
I,
wasn't worse?
what's that?
How do you know it wasn't worse? Maybe like
Well,
five more planes hit stuff in 9/11. Like,
no, that's what I'm saying. It could, I've come up in my head a workaround for this,
mhm.
and there's another character in the comics that was associated with Captain America, who had actually been Captain America for a while himself, and that's Nomad. And part of me is wondering if maybe at some point we might see a Nomad running around in the Marvel universe before the Avengers were ever assembled, and it turns out it's actually Steve in disguise. So who knows? That'd be a cool thing to see too.
There's all kinds of things that they could do. I think I told you before how like my idea on how I would end Captain America's story in the MCU was
Mm-hmm.
actually pretty similar to this, but what I had thought of would be like in my mind how I would have ended the story is I would have had Steve be the guy who gets a hold of the Infinity Gauntlet
Yeah,
rather than Tony. And
yeah.
I'm not saying this would have been better. I'm just saying like before I knew how they were going to end it, this was how I kind of thought in my mind it would be a good way to end it.
To me, that kind of makes more sense.
If Steve got the Infinity Gauntlet and he snaps his fingers and wipes out Thanos's army or whatever, and instead of like dying like Tony does, he just kind of
Mm-hmm.
vanishes and
Right,
nobody knows what happens to him, and
mm-hmm.
everybody just assumes that Captain America was vaporized,
Right.
and then your end credit scene would be uh Steve opening his eyes in the hospital, and
Mm-hmm.
it's skinny Steve in this old timey hospital room, like what you saw at the end of First Avenger. But
Yeah,
then he sees Peggy,
yeah.
and but yeah, he would have gone back to being skinny Steve. He would have been
Right.
set back in time when he snapped the gauntlet rather than just being killed. It's almost like the gauntlet is rewarding him for his sacrifice,
Yeah. There you go.
and and that would be why he's not Captain America-ing around, trying to stop like
Anymore.
the Kennedy from being assassinated or whatever. Like it's because he's skinny Steve again. He
Yeah.
can't do that stuff. Stiff wind will blow him over.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was just kind of like, and she don't care if he's skinny Steve. She likes skinny Steve probably even better because
Sure.
so he's basically like in my mind after that Steve, and this kind of dovetails in with how I figure it actually goes in the MCU from this point is that like in my mind Steve Rogers becomes like a house husband.
Hmm.
Peggy's running Shield, and he stays home and takes care of the kids. because just like he's not the sort of guy who would be like so hyper masculine that like he's got to make sure the wife stays home. No wife of mine is having he wouldn't be that guy.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure.
So she goes off. She has a job. He takes care of the kids. He grows like a mustache and basically looks like Ned Flanders now. It's like because he doesn't want anybody to know he's Captain America, so he tries to look as little like Captain America as possible. Like that's just kind of how it worked out in my head.
Yeah.
Maybe he starts calling himself like I don't know, like Sam James or something. Names himself after his friends. Whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope they're happy though. They deserve to be happy. Those two.
It seemed like they were happy.
Yeah.
He seemed like he lived a pretty satisfied life at the end of that movie.
Yep.
I mean, he was married to Peggy, so.
Yeah, and the thing is, like you could still bring. I think you could bring Captain America back. I wouldn't want to bring him back permanently, just because, like I said, I kind of like that ending of the story. But I could see it being the sort of thing where he's like, some kind of big crisis happens, and they just need Captain America. So he's like, goes over to his chest, pulls out the time stone and Mjolnir, because he hasn't put those back, puts on his Captain America outfit. He's like, Peggy, I'll be back in time for supper.
Yeah.
Goes to wherever they need him, smashes things up with the hammer. He's still got like what's left of his original shield.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of the opinion that Sam's shield actually is a new shield. It's not the original Captain America shield.
Could be.
Yeah. Well, remember what the line of dialogue is like, Sam says it feels like it was made for somebody else, and Steve says it wasn't. So, maybe it actually was like a brand new shield that was specifically made for Sam.
Yeah, very true.
Maybe before he made a stop there, he stopped by Wakanda and it was like, hey, T'Challa, can you get a shield for Sam?
Yeah.
So, it could have happened that way. Who knows?
Sure.
I figure they'll probably expand on that some later. I'm expecting the Falcon and Winter Soldier to be kind of like at least sort of, again, that sort of remix thing that Marvel likes to do, kind of based on the Captain America No More arc. That I really like. That was like probably my favorite story from the comic books. Instead of them taking the shield away from Steve Rogers, they're taking it away from Sam. Like I guess, like elements of the government being like, well, technically we still own that shield, and like,
right.
Captain America is owned by us, so we're taking it back. And then they would give it to the John Walker character, and
then we get U.S. Agent out of the deal. I'm down with that.
Yeah, and U.S. Agent. I'm so excited to see U.S. Agent because he's one of my. He's like Captain America if Captain America was a jerk.
Yeah. Has he been cast yet?
Yeah, he's gonna be on it. We've seen pictures of him and everything. Who's playing U.S. Agent?
But I don't remember seeing any pictures, and I can't think of who it was that was cast.
I'll put up a picture later. I'll find it. Yep. But here, who was cast? This is so cool. It's Kurt Russell's son.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the son of Kurt Russell. I forget what his name is. Something Russell. But yeah, he's going to be playing U.S. Agent. So
right.
I don't know if I've seen him act in anything, but like I'm a huge Kurt Russell fan. So as long as the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, I'm sure I'm going to enjoy that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll find a picture of it. I'll put it up on Facebook later. But anyway, do we have anything else to discuss as far as like WandaVision / the MCU?
I think we pretty much said everything we're going to say about WandaVision.
All right.
At least until the next episode.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and call it a day on that